Welcome back to the channel. This is this is my third time trying to do a video on this. Hopefully I will be able to do it cohesively. Took a nap, so hopefully me being tired won't affect this recording. But today's episode is about Spider-Man No Way Home, or Spider-Man Brand New Day. And this will sort of be my review. I will go ahead and issue a spoiler warning. There are some very big spoilers that I will be going over. I'm not going to do a whole breakdown and recap of the movie like I typically do, just because I can't remember most of the movie for shit. But I will do my best to just kind of talk about, my thoughts and opinions and sort of what they kind of did in this film. So, it was getting right off the bat. It was pretty good. People have been saying it's like the best since Spider-Man 2. Don't necessarily agree with that statement, but it is pretty good. I do think Destin really did a good job with this version of Spider-Man. And I'm interested to see if he'll do a sequel going forward. And the cinematography was beautiful. I think the opening montage of things Spider-Man has done in the time between No Way Home and Brand New Day is a bit dull and lacking some color, but it still pops. It's very well shot, very high quality, very good looking. More so than the Home trilogy, in my opinion. Um, so it looks beautiful. It was shot very well. One of the biggest things that was on my mind going into this was Sadie Sink's character. Um, for those listening, I'm sure some of you are aware of the rumors that have been heavily circulating the internet about her playing Jean Grey, since the movie did, showcase that there would be a sort of mind control element to it with the villain. And By can officially confirm, which I believe has been leaked from the red carpet premiere, and of course the tease at Comic-Con with Ryan Reynolds' suit. But I can confirm that she is Jean Grey. I don't know what this will mean going forward. I know Sadie Sink is already attached to reprise her role in Secret Wars. If she will continue after Secret Wars, I do not know. I know they've just cast Samara Weaving as Emma Frost. I don't know if that's going to be part of the same cast or if it's going to be different. We've not gotten an official statement from Marvel about that. They were saving any X-Men news to later because they didn't want to give up too much for anticipation of Brand New Day. Because, you can't really spoil your upcoming movie. That kind of ruins it. Yeah, so still waiting on that announcement from Marvel to confirm what's going to happen with this character. Because if they keep Sadie Sink, it means they'll go with a younger cast, pretty much. And it'll be interesting to see a younger X-Men, just because we're so used to them being older characters, in their 30s and 40s. But um, but yeah, so it'll be very interesting seeing how that goes on after Secret Wars. I will say, because of how heavily talked about and rumored Sadie Sink's role was in this film. When they did, when the scene came up and I saw her name on the screen and it said Jean Eleanor Gray, I was just like, okay, so that is where we're going with this now. And it didn't feel like a good, satisfying reveal because of how much it had been pre-speculated. Like it was pretty much already in my head that there's no way she's not Jean Grey, especially with how they played this up. And when it was confirmed when I saw the film, I'm just like, okay, like that was pretty much a given. Like there's really nothing to that at this point. Which sucks because I do think that was supposed to be the big reveal of this movie, and because it was so talked about, so speculative, and then like I said, leaked before most everyone got to see it today, it kind of took away from that, which sucks. However, it's not necessarily Marvel's fault. I think they maybe bit a bit more than they could chew on that, just because when the main antagonist of the film for half the film is a telepath and is jumping mind to mind, um, and that is a huge plot point in the movie. It's kind of hard to keep that a secret while still giving people enough to want to show up. Because if they don't know what this is about, and there's nothing for people to get hooked to, there's nothing going to get them to go into the theaters. Now, yes, it is a Spider-Man film, and everyone loves Spider-Man, but that'll only get you so far. So I do think that they were in a bit of a weird state in promoting this, and since the fact that it was Marvel and they were doing something with mind control and possible telepathy, I think that did kind of fuck them over a bit. Um, but very interesting to see that the X-Men are now in the MCU. Didn't really get much of a backstory and didn't really explain how she got her powers. But I'm sure they'll do that later on. Um, but I mean, aside from the fact that her reveal in the movie wasn't as big as I was kind of hoping it would be, and as it should have been, her inclusion in the film was very natural and fit the story well. Never in a million years did I think it'd end up being Jean Grey in a Spider-Man film, but it worked. I will give them that. It did work on their in their favor for the story. Um, I can't help but feel that the movie tried tackling a lot, though. I was unhappy with what they did with Scorpion. I would have preferred if Scorpion was just the big bad in this. But because of the whole time jump thing, they're like, oh, well, Matt Gargan's already been released and then went back to jail after trying to kill Spider Man. And then when we see him next, he broke out of prison from Jean Grey and is then just attacking the city and everything. And then he gets sent back to jail again. So it was just very, very weird and felt very rushed. And I definitely wasn't, I think, what fans were hoping for in Scorpion because of how he was played up and teased in Homecoming. And I'm hoping they'll do something with him more in the future. Although after seeing what they did with him in this, I doubt it. It was nice seeing him in the suit though, and actually getting some scenes of Scorpion after so long. But I do think that was a tad underwhelming. The inclusion of all the different characters and stuff in the beginning, I thought was a bit much. There was Ramrod, I believe was his name, Tombstone, Tarantula, Boomerang, Scorpion, the Hand. It was just so much in that montage over the time gap that it felt a bit clustered, um, and was kind of a bit much. Um, as far as the movie's pacing, I do think it has a pacing problem, because of how they do the movie. Um, a little past the midway mark after the fight sequence with Savage Hulk, It definitely feels like the movie was headed for a conclusive end with them stopping Jean Grey, realizing that's who that is, and Damage Control then taking her, and then Spider Man and MJ realizing that they're never going to be together, and everything. I thought that was going to be the definitive end of the movie. I legitimately thought that's where that was going. And then the next scene hit, and it's just like, oh, we're still going. And it just kind of felt like it was starting to drag a bit toward the very end. Now, I do think the ending was good. I do think it was a good ending. I wish they would have paced it better. Um, the 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 middle of the film, um, just because it did feel a bit off. Um, and that was something that kind of threw me off watching this. Um, I'm also not a huge fan of how they handled Hulk's character in this. I'm glad we got Savage Hulk back. I mean, because I'm also not a fan of Savage Hulk or Smart Hulk. I mean, but the way they did Banner's character was kind of dirty. The Banner part of it, um, because in the movie, part of the plot is, Jean Grey is trying to find what we find out is her sister, who at this point in the film, is she thinks is still alive. It's not till later we find out that she had been killed by Damage Control. But in this part of the movie, she's trying to figure out where her sister is and free her. In order to break into Damage Control, though, she needs brute force to break down the defenses and stuff and to get through everything. So she goes to Banner, which is understandable because of the Hulk. He has the strength that she would need to break in. Since her powers were still kind of in her infancy, and she didn't have a full control of them yet. Because at this point her radius was limited as well to like 33 feet, I think. As far as the jumping mines, so she's very limited to what she could do. At this point, so she tried taking over Hulk, which backfired. But after Banner is able to kick her out of his head, because there was someone in his head, it messes with his mind and it forces the Hulk persona back out fully, like even more than I think it's ever been shown. Like I think this version of Hulk, the Savage Hulk, was a lot bigger, and its build was a lot rougher, and more toned and ripped than I think he was in the first Avengers film. And it was pretty surreal seeing how big that version of Hulk was, um, and how angry he had got. The line he delivered too, which is kind of teased in the trailer. Um, no Banner, no girl, only Hulk, was very it was very chilling hearing him say that, and then going all out. He almost killed Spider-Man. Like I don't think if he had said, what he did in this scene, that it would have played out any differently. Because he even tried hitting him with the shocker gauntlet, and that didn't do a damn thing. Um, so but my problem with this is what they did after, and after he realizes, that Spider-Man's not the enemy and he's, the good guy. He looks at his reflection in a broken piece of glass from the damage inside the damage control building, similar to, I believe, what he did in Age of Ultron. And he sort of kind of falls out the building because all of the rubble from the building that was, broken off in the Hulk fight was webbed and attached to him and kind of weighing him down. And he, after he realized what he did, he let it force him out, and he fell to the ground from so high up, and then eventually turned back into Banner. But Banner doesn't necessarily remember anything at all. Um, because of Jean being in his mind, and then of course him hulking out and completely blocking him from anything. It wasn't Banner. It was just pure straight Hulk. Um, and I felt bad for Banner's character. And he was later shipped after getting out of the hospital to a mental lab or institute or something at a off-site location for Department of Damage Control, which I feel is way too rough for the character. I mean, because he didn't really have any choice in this. It's not like it was his fault that he had hulked out, since someone was messing with his mind. Because he'd even tried making precautions so that this wouldn't happen, and he wouldn't hulk out. That's why he had the gamma inhibitor to sort of control and suppress his DNA so he couldn't hulk out. Um, Man, I just felt real bad for the character. I'm gonna be mad if they end up putting him in the raft with Stearns, because I don't want that for the character. I also don't even know as if they're gonna um, say anything about his character in Doomsday. It won't surprise me if they completely leave him out of Doomsday. Um, which, speaking of going into Doomsday, Yelena is in this. Um, and they did have a scene together. I, I don't necessarily know if I want to say naked, because I don't know if Florence really got naked for this scene, and I know Tom was still wearing his boxers when he got into the pool. But they did have a bit of a weird scene that I think could have been kept in, but didn't need to be done the way it was. Um, Toward the beginning of the film, after finding out that there is a mind control thing going on, Spider-Man goes to Yelena, of the New Avengers, to try to see if the mind control thing isn't maybe something related to what she had experienced in the Red Room, which is a very real thing that can happen and definitely warrants them having the conversation, because since it was mind control and they it was dealt with in that way, it definitely felt natural having that conversation and then ruling that out as this isn't a possibility, but bringing it up anyways because that could be a possibility. I think was a smart inclusion and definitely warranted from it. It wasn't like, oh, she's just in here to be in it and promote Doomsday since that's next, which I thought was good. The fact that they did it the way they did, though, in the bathhouse, um, is I think a bit much, and it definitely took away from it. Um, I mean, I understand, because she even Yelena even says in the scene that because Peter tried getting into the tub with everything on, um, after initially not wanting to go in, period. But Gillena said, it was just to prove that, he's not really having any weapons or anything, and that it would help him relax a little bit. But I just don't think it was necessary. They kind of made it like jokingly like it was her office, like that's where Yelena works, um, and stuff, which I also don't like because they're not taking it seriously, or she's not taking anything seriously. Because in Thunderbolts, she wanted to do something better with her life, I think, kind of, instead of what she was just doing for Valentina. And I would think, in order to prove that, especially to people who hate them, that she would be taking it seriously. She would be trying to be this somewhat leader of the new Avengers and would be actively trying to do things. But she's just sitting in a bathhouse and not really doing anything and making analogies about potatoes and how little itty bitty stuff is not her problem. And I just think it's a total 360 of the character that we saw from Thunderbolts, the raw emotional Yelena looking for a purpose, um, and feeling alone and stuff. I feel like it was completely wrong for the character after what we saw in Thunderbolts, especially going into Doomsday. So I thought that was a real waste of time and of the character. She does end up coming back later and actually does something helpful for the character, as far as finding out that, and this is how we find out that that is Jean Grey, because she does a bit of digging into files from Damage Control, which had been completely redacted and can't and cleared out. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of where she later comes in as far as importance. And it's not just that one sequence. She does come back later on in the film, um, after the movie was originally what I thought was supposed to end. Um, but yeah, so it wasn't huge on Yelena's involvement in the film. And it's nothing against Florence Pugh. I think she's great as Yelena. I think it's just how they wrote and handled the character for this film that bugged me a bit. Um, but yeah, I'm still kind of up in the air how I feel about the relationship between Peter, MJ, and Ned in this. Um, Obviously, they did bring up the whole thing of, after MJ and eventually finds out about the note that Peter was going to give her. She brings up the great point that, you know, she she feels sorry for him and would love to, feel something for him sympathetically, but she has no memories of what he's talking about. And because of that, there's nothing drawing her to him, kind of. Like the relationship starting from the ground up again. Which is kind of sad for Peter's character, but also understandable. Like, I mean, he did this for a reason. I mean, he should have known this could have been a possibility. Um, but and it definitely throws me off at the end when he finally, you know, goes to Ned in the store and does their old handshake. I think that was a bit odd that they just did that and showed that, hey, Ned remembers this. Does this mean he remembers now? And then ending the movie there, I'm like, why are we ending there? Like, there's not any explanation for that. Um, so I don't know if that means that they actually remember him now, or what. But I guess we'll find out in a sequel, maybe. Um, I don't know as if five's been officially confirmed. I know Tom said he'd love to return for a five, but I can't remember if he's signed a contract for another trilogy or not. I'd have to dig into that. Um, but other than that, it was fairly decent movie. Um, I I believe there was once, technically two, because Rosario Dawson came out and said that she'd filmed something for Brand New Day, but it was cut. Which I'm assuming is toward the end of the movie because um, after the final you know climactic sequence, um, Spider-Man gets injured. He's in the hospital, and when we see him leave the hospital, he is wearing a jacket that says Metro General, and that is where Claire Temple originally worked. Now, could this be where she was going to be included? Could be, because she did work for Metro General in the Defender saga. However, if I remember correctly, she quit her job. So, having her just out of nowhere be part of Metro General again, I think is odd. And maybe that's why it was cut, is because since the Netflix shows are now canon, having Claire Temple at Metro General just didn't make sense anymore. Um, but I don't know. That's just my speculation on where that character would have been part of it. Um, if it'll be a deleted scene, I don't know. Something else that was cut was in the trailers and TV spots. There was a scene where Spider-Man is at a hospital with a gown on and the mask on in front of a bunch of kids, and he's like donating blood or something. Um, and they can't get the needle to go through the skin to draw blood or something. And that was cut from the movie. I don't recall seeing that at all. I could be wrong, but I don't recall seeing that in the movie at all. So that could have just been something that didn't make it into the final cut. Um, but yeah, so that's pretty much just how I feel on certain things that happened. Um, I I do also want to go ahead and talk about the Daredevil related stuff. There were some speculations that Daredevil could be a part of this, and maybe that's why the hand was in New York. Um, it very well could be. They never say in the opening montage why the hand was ever in New York again. And they just say that they were kind of there and that Spider Man dealt with them. And then that Damage Control later rehabilitated them. Um, and they specifically say, when Spider-Man brought them in, they were just a group of lonely kids that didn't really have a leader. So I don't know if this means that if Elektra's in Born Again season 3, if she ends up dying, and that's why they have no leader, since technically she's the Black Sky, she was the leader of the Hand in Defenders, I'm pretty sure. Um, but I don't know. Um, because we don't even know what her role in Born Again season 3 is. She could just be through flashbacks for the majority of the season. It's not yet been confirmed. Um, by I'm thinking that she's gonna actually be in it because I believe they gave her a new costume that's different from what she had in a Daredevil and Defenders. Um, but I can't remember off the top of my head what the costume actually looks like. Um, do I think this is a good route for the character? No, I think the character would be better off left dead, or supposedly thought dead, until after Secret Wars, and then maybe they can do something with the character again post Secret Wars. Just because she died in Daredevil season 2 by Nobu, um, was resurrected and brought back in Defenders, only to then be supposedly killed after the collapse of Midland Circle, which I'm assuming would have killed her because Matt Murdock barely survived Midland Circle. Like he probably should have been dead after that. So I don't I honestly don't know what they're going to do with Elektra. That we won't know that till next March. Um, but yeah, so they don't really explain why the hand is in this, but it's got nothing to do with Daredevil that I'm aware of. That prison like area that we saw them in was just part of the damage control building. That's not like where they're keeping Matt now that Matt's in jail at the end of season 2. That's just part of the damage control building in New York. So nothing to do with Daredevil, unfortunately. um Punisher, I thought was done okay. Some people might think this version's a bit watered down just because it's not as bloody or violent. Because he's not doing a whole lot of violence, but because it is a Spider-Man film, there are limits to what they can do. Um, since Spider-Man is a universally loved character, they can't go too far with the character, even even though Punisher's not the character in question. They can't have a Spider-Man movie tainted with a character like that uh, in a hard R rating, because they would lose a lot of sales and revenue doing that. Since a lot of kids really love and look up to Spider-Man, it would kind of ruin that if they did the whole R Punisher. Now the tone though is the same. Jon Bernthal definitely keeps the tone of the character the same as far as the way he talks, the interactions he has with Spider-Man, very much still being a to himself. Violence is kind of the answer thing. Um, and then not really opening up to people and stuff is still the closed off version of Frank that we still know and like, that Jon Bernthal portrays really well. So the character was still pretty much the same, but I think because there is no violence with that, people might think it's watered down. But the interactions he had with Peter in this film were pretty good. I think they did that well. So I think Punisher was good, was well done in this. Um, I do think the whole thing he does at the hospital is maybe a bit out of left field. Um, but I'll leave that up for you guys to decide. I thought it was a bit off the goofiness of what he did. But I don't know. Maybe it's tastefully done for the character, given what happened prior to that sequence and everything that happened with Spider-Man, leading up to that sequence at the hospital. So, but yeah, so that is pretty much it. Again, people are saying this is like one of the best films since Spider-Man 2. Um, Again, I don't necessarily agree with that, but it is a good movie. In in terms of ranking all of the live action Spider-Man films, I think I would have to say number 1 is Spider-Man 2, because that was like the definitive film of Spider-Man, and definitely the best out of any of the Spider-Man films I think ever made. So Spider-Man 2 is definitely number 1. The second film of, list of good to bad, number 2 for me has got to be Far From Home. I really loved Far From Home. I saw that in theaters and just really enjoyed the story they did with that, and the whole thing with Mysterio um, was really well done. That was something we'd never seen before, um, and was maybe a bit of an obscure villain, and the way they grounded him in reality and stuff was really well done. And the illusion tech and the visuals and stuff was brilliant and very tastefully done as well. So that's got to be my number 2. Number 3, I gotta say, would be No Way Home. Number 4 would be Spider-Man 3. And I'm thinking just because of the memes, I think is because it's memorable because of that. I also really loved what they did with Sandman in that movie, even though what they did with Venom and stuff kind of fell off a bit. I still really enjoyed what they did with Thomas Hayden Church's portrayal of Sandman, Flint Marko. Number five would be The Amazing Spider Man 2. No. Yeah. The Amazing Spider Man 2. I do feel the movie was a bit lost with the whole goblin thing. But from what I remember, um, it actually had fairly decent setup, and was pretty good. Um, and then after that would be Spider-Man 1, and then the Amazing Spider-Man. Um, I just did not realize I left Brand New Day out, and I think I did misplace some things. So let me run that by again. So it would be Spider-Man 2, Far From Home, um, No Way Home, Spider Man 3, Spider Man 1, Amazing Spider Man 1, Amazing Spider Man 2, and then Homecoming. Brand New Day, I would probably put after Spider Man 3. So it would be 5 on the list out of the. Let's see. 3, 6, 7, 8. So out of the 9 live action Spider Man films we've gotten, I think it would be number 5 on that list. Which may be a bit unfair because, like I said, this was a pretty good movie. And like I said, Destin really did a great job on this. But again, there's my problems that I have with the film, as far as pacing and tone goes. And again, that whole big giant secret that was supposed to be Jean Grey's involvement in this fell flat, kind of, because of how much it was talked about leading into the film, even though it wasn't confirmed, because that was everyone's thoughts and what was on everyone's mind. It just when it was finally revealed, it's like, okay, I guess. And I do think that kind of hindered that reveal. But yeah, they're wrapping this up. There is a post-credit scene. It is the Spidey tracker, and it's probably the weirdest way I've ever seen them do a post-credit scene for a Sony film, because it's after the logos for the movie at the very end, at the end of the credits, and usually that happens before they do the logos, I thought. But I can't remember. But there is a post-credit scene of the Spidey tracker, and it says, it's tracking Spider-Man's location, and it starts in New York, but then it quickly zooms out and then goes out into space. Now, again, I can't remember a whole lot from the film, especially this post-credit scene, because it was very short and very brief. But the screen kind of glitches, kind of the same way Miles glitches, since he's an anomaly in the Spider-Verse films. So I don't know if this is maybe alluding to, Brand New Day's coming in, or not Brand New Day. Beyond the Spider-Verse is coming out soon. Be prepared, because of the the glitching thing. I thought maybe it was alluding to that. But I can't remember if it ever showed up in a on another Earth, like another Earth popped up and it said Spider-Man was located there. I think the person that I'd talked to said that it was just the logo floating out in space. So, another thing I was maybe thinking of is that there is speculation that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man will appear again in Doomsday as part of the incursions, and he will fight Wolverine and Deadpool in an opening scene toward the beginning of the film, which has not been confirmed. That is not confirmed at all. But I don't know. I've never been more stuck and confused on a post-credit scene because of how vague it is. Again, because of the glitching, I'm thinking it is maybe promoting Beyond the Spider-Verse, since that is coming out soon also. But I also don't know if it's trying to set up Doomsday or Secret Wars. It's very odd, and I kind of don't like how vague it is. After that, it kind of just said Spider-Man will return. It didn't specify either. As far as I'm aware, we still have next to nothing about Beyond the Spider-Verse. And like I said, Tobey Maguire has not been confirmed for Doomsday. And Tom Holland and has not been confirmed for Doomsday or Secret Wars. So excuse me. So yeah, we'll just have to wait for those to come out to see maybe what it's going to allude to. That's kind of the thing I hate, that Sony has different Spider-Man projects going on, with Spider-Verse and then the MCU. Because, like I said, since it glitched, it makes me believe that it's going to be Miles Morales and it's leading up to Beyond the Spider-Verse. But I'm not sure. I genuinely do not know. I had 3C's video up earlier to watch, and because I was so tired earlier when I tried recording 3 other takes of this video, I didn't really get, much through the video. I passed out, which, I mean, is nothing to Chris. It's not like he's boring and a bad film reviewer. It's just, I was just very tired. But I need to try to rewatch that again and see maybe what his thoughts and opinions are on the end credit scene in his video, and see if maybe he thinks what it is. If he even mentions the fact that since it glitched, if it could be part of the Spider-Verse. Because I don't even know as if people necessarily notice that. However, if it is talking about Maguire's Spider-Man, it would also glitch as well for that, because since it's trans-dimensional and multiversal, it would glitch and then pick up the frequency from a different universe. So it would also glitch in that scenario too. But when I saw the glitch, I think it was a bit colorful. Not the same way the glitch works in the Spider-Verse films, but that's immediately what I thought with the glitch when it happened on the Spidey tracker. Just because we know that because Miles is an anomaly, he wasn't originally supposed to become Spider-Man, that he glitches, and that is why he does. Because he wasn't supposed to be Spider-Man. And so that's why I was thinking maybe it was glitching. But again, I could be wrong. But yeah. So other than that, that is probably it for the video. But I don't know if this will be up right away. I don't think I go a whole lot into spoilers. I'm trying to think back as to what I said, which I have no recollection of. The only real thing I talk spoiler-wise in this video that I recall is, Jean Grey, pretty much. I don't know if I will just save this video for a couple days down the road, or if I'll just go ahead and upload it now, because of the whole Jean Grey thing, since that was, again, so heavily rumored and kind of a letdown as far as a huge surprise reveal. But I also don't want to ruin the film for you guys, because this is a pretty big film. And it was definitely really good and deserves to be seen in the theaters if possible. So I might, out of respect, wait before I upload this. but I don't know. I might do a poll and see if this is something you guys want to see. And then again, if I do end up uploading it, I will put a spoiler tag on it so you guys know, to be prepared for spoilers, just so you know, maybe to avoid the video or certain parts of it. Um, but that is pretty much it. Um, so yeah. So let me know what you think in the comments. And again, I might go ahead and do that poll after I'm done recording this, just to get your guys' thoughts and opinions. But until next time, this is me signing off.